right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Christopher Pereira. I am the director of Tepeyac Leadership Inc. It's a national Catholic nonprofit organization which does one thing. We do only one thing, and that is form leaders. We have a 5-month leadership development program for Catholic professionals that runs every year in the spring. And through this open house, we want to tell you a little bit about our program. So thank you everybody for joining us. We already see that there are several of you from different parts of the country, and thank you for being with us. We want to tonight tell you what TLI is, tell you what are the benefits of participating in the program, and we're going to do it through the testimonials of some of our graduates. We have already been running our program for about 5 years, and we've invited a few of our graduates to be with us tonight. Actually, we were waiting for one more that might arrive at any minute, but we're already getting started with 2 of our graduates who are already here. Here in Phoenix, Arizona, where we are actually live streaming from, is 4 p.m. And you might imagine what 4 p.m. looks like to go into downtown. So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. But I know some of you are watching us from the East Coast. It's about 7 p.m. where you are. Thank you for joining us. And it was you who we were thinking of when we set the time, so that everybody could join in at the same time for a virtual open house. So TLI. Many of you have had the opportunity to perhaps visit our website and take a look at what the program is. Perhaps you know somebody who has graduated from the program and you have a rough idea of what the program does, what the purpose and objectives of the program are. So if you haven't, I highly encourage you and I want to invite you to watch our 2-minute video. You can watch it right from the homepage of our website. It's a really cool 2-minute video that has been instrumental for us to sort of convey the mission, the vision of the program, and sort of what it looks like, what it feels like when you're going through it. It's a really well done video. So I invite you to go later when this live stream is over and watch that video for us and really take a look at it. And then you can watch some of the other materials that we have available for you. About the program, let me tell you that we began taking applications today. October 1st to November 15th is the time when you can apply. Everything is online. The application is online. You're going to need, in order to apply, you're going to need a resume and a letter of recommendation. It's very important that you get that letter of recommendation right away because it is the biggest holdup. Typically is what holds the applicants the most in order to apply. You're going to submit all of that in along with your application, your essay questions. Everything is online, and then you're going to schedule yourself for an interview. The admission interviews take place early January, and we send the letters to successful and unsuccessful candidates towards the end of January. So that's sort of the process that we go to, but what is TLI? I want to tell you a little bit about what our program does. So, as you know, the Catholic Church has been forming leaders since forever. Jesus Christ formed the first 12, right? We've never really stopped doing it. We've always had some sort of leadership development program ongoing. But traditionally, when the Catholic Church has offered up or presented opportunities for leadership development, or for leadership development to lay people, this have really consisted of preparing them to do ministry, or apostolate, more properly called for the laity, apostolate type of work. Maybe catechetical formation, evangelization, this sort of work. This is very important work, and we should continue to do it, and the church is going to continue to do it. We have a lot of programs that do this. But that's not what we are. That's not what TLI does. And I always make that distinction because we truly believe we have a unique take on forming Catholic leaders. What we do is we invite Catholic professionals from different walks of life, from different fields, and we have them go through this 5-month experience in the spring. It's a total of 5 months. The program goes from the 2nd week of February to the 3rd week of June. Through those 5 months, participants join in the sessions virtually from the comfort of their home or office, 1 night a week. The sessions are virtual, but as if they were in person. What I mean by that is that today you find a lot of training going on online, but most of what you will find is recorded content, videos or models that you click here or there so that you can look at the next piece of video. We don't do any of that. TLI is delivered live, so when you participate in the program, every session will feel as if it was in person. You will have discussions, you will have PowerPoint presentations, you will have Q&A panels, you will have breakout rooms. There'll be times when we'll split the class into small groups, 3 or 5 people, so that they can interact and go through different exercises. And all of it is very engaging, very dynamic. It's all live. Now, in addition to the 5 months, 18 sessions, 1 night a week for 5 months, participants are asked to join towards the end of the program in the month of May for a in-person retreat. It's an all-day retreat. It takes place on a Saturday. And for 2022, we're very excited to say that we're going to offer up participants 2 different locations from which to participate in the retreat. So from wherever you are in the United States, you can decide whether it's easier for you to join the in-person retreat in Phoenix, Arizona, or Nashville, Tennessee. And we're very excited about that for all of our friends in the East Coast. So that's the retreat. The retreat is on a Saturday of May. We'll give you the dates ahead of time, and you can plan for it. You do want to join the retreat in person. You want to do it in person. We do have it available virtually as well for those who absolutely cannot make it. But we highly encourage you to do the retreat in person, because as you will hear from our graduates today, it really is the highlight of the program, everybody's favorite part of the program. And it's an opportunity for you to actually see and hopefully hug and shake the hands of your fellow program participants. So we highly invite you to take a look at that. And I'm going to begin now by introducing 2 of our graduates who are already here, and then we'll be shortly joined by 1 more of them. Both Andres Marti and Christante Cupone have. Andres is actually a graduate from the first generation of the program, and Christante is a product of the 2021 cohort. And both of them have had phenomenal experiences with TLI, but distinct in the way that when Andres went through the program, TLI was an in-person experience. And as with everybody else, the program went virtual in the year 2020. But for us, that's a permanent change, because we've decided that even post-pandemic, the best way for us to serve our demographic, the audience that we're trying to reach, who are busy Catholic professionals, is to stay virtual. This way you can take the program with you from wherever you are. So the program is fully virtual now, and Christante actually went through the virtual experience. So you'll get to hear from 2 graduates who went through those 2 different versions of the program, but it is the same experience, and you will see it from there. So maybe we'll start with Christante, and if you could just briefly, Christante, just tell us a little bit about what you do, how you heard about the program, and then just an overall what your experience was with it, and then we'll go a little more in depth, and then we'll go with Andres.
Hi, you can call me Chris. So as Christopher said, I just graduated a few months ago, and the experience, for me was wonderful. But before I get into that, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I actually have a master's degree in leadership. I've had lots of leadership training. I almost have my doctorate in leadership as well, and education. So I know a lot about training. I was a dean for 10 years of a university. I taught leadership at the university, many leadership classes from, things about, 6 thinking hats and how to, team building and these kinds of things, how to truly, find your talents and help others find their talents. So I've been through a lot of programs, and I've taught a lot of programs. So at first, when I was approached by Christopher, that's how I found out about TLI, I wasn't sure if I was interested because I had done so much of that myself, but it was a very different experience, and I can tell right away when Christopher was describing it that this is something different than a typical leadership program. I had also been through a very famous leadership program in the Valley that was very competitive as well several years ago, and the experience was great, but also very time consuming, and I wasn't sure if I could meet that time commitment. So I work now in the corporate world. I'm in American Express. I run the cybersecurity training program, so I moved from university to corporate trainer type role. Love what I do, love adult learning, but it is hard for me to sit through sometimes teaching when you are a teacher. It's just interesting. So this gentleman here was actually the person that had to deal with all of us and kind of moderate our classroom, and he did a great job. But what I loved was there were all different ages that I can mingle and learn from. So I tend to love the younger, the students that I had in college that I missed so much, but then also, people that are much senior than me and learn from them, and I have that opportunity. So that's like the overview. It was virtual. It was not time consuming. It was not overwhelming. I'm a single mom. So I did have my child at home, and she was not even 5 yet. So running around in the background all the time, interrupting me, but actually saw her mom pray with the class, and she loved it. She would come sit with me the whole time I was in the class. So it became kind of a session for both of us. So, I'll go into detail when you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Andres Martin, and my background is I actually just recently got another appointment. I work for Maricopa County. Had been working as an ombudsman, which is very interesting work, but I feel the TLI had prepared me for that. And then recently, the next appointment that I received was with Environmental Services Department. So that had just started, so it's very fresh, but it's great work and great people to be working with. So with regard to the TLI and how I heard about the TLI, for me, the TLI actually started out of a prayer that I started praying in 2014. So it was actually a few years before TLI actually came to fruition. And it was in 2017 when I was working with a business owner, and the perfect stranger. He and I were just talking a little bit about God, and ended up telling me, this gentleman, that he had a friend who worked for the Diocese of Phoenix, and I didn't say anything about me being Catholic, but for some reason he picked up on that, and he had told me about this program that he thought I would be great for. So he had shared with me some of the details, not too much, but he did share the website and the name of his friend that's starting this program, which was Christopher Pereira. And so after that, I ended up getting a call from Christopher, who had asked me to meet with him, and I did eventually meet with him, and he did tell me about the program and spoke about how it would benefit me professionally, which is something that I was looking for, not fully realizing that this was the answer to my prayer. So I ended up applying for the program. After he told me about it, it just sounded like an outstanding thing, and I don't have that same experience that Chris Cupone does, where she's been through all these leadership programs. I hadn't been. So I ended up entering the program, and it was just an incredible experience for so many different reasons. I didn't realize that the TLI program was going to do so much more for me than I initially thought. It was a launching pad for my career. Shortly after I graduated from the program, I did receive promotions with Maricopa County, and then, following that, there were some additional opportunities that had come up, one of those being with the TLI. Chris had asked me to come back to be a facilitator, and again, these were things where God was showing me that prayer that I had back several years prior, he was answering them. But my experience, again, with the program, it wasn't just on the professional level, it was also the spiritual level. And at that point in time, I was learning a lot more about my Catholic faith, but it was more of the intellectual side. I knew why I was Catholic and wanted to remain Catholic, but I was struggling with how do I go past that? How do I enter into a deeper relationship with God and with Christ? And TLI helped me with that tremendously, and continues to. So, and so that's been my experience. And following TLI has just been an amazing journey, one that's been a blessing to me, because again, after Chris asked me to be a facilitator, I've just been able to interact with a lot of different lay Catholic leaders, such as those that are sitting here with me right now. And it's been beneficial for me for multiple reasons to continue to grow and to learn from others, and to network with others, again, not only professionally, but also spiritually.
Christopher Gonzalez has just joined us. Just your overall experience with the program, then we'll go more in depth.
Yes, thank you. My name is Chris Gonzalez. I was with the TLI cohort this year with the Phoenix cohort, and I had the pleasure of working with Chris and Andres as well, and I can just tell you that with the program itself and my experience overall, it's been one that's continued my faith development and also my professional development. But before I got into TLI, I actually attended the open house similar to this, and I remember prior to that, I was looking for something that had to do with Catholic leadership as a whole. That was just, seemed like something that was missing in my life, and I was growing more in my faith at the time. We've had We have 3 kids right now, but at the time we only had 2, and just lots of different things were kind of running through my mind, but we were making commitments to really re-engage back with our faith, such as going to Mass and just doing the things we're supposed to do as Catholics. But there was still something missing, and I couldn't quite put my hand on it. But I started realizing that all these different leadership type development courses or things that I would do, I actually would come out of them really happy and excited about what the opportunity was and what I can do with my business, my personal development, and then it would just fizzle away, and it was like, where did the energy go? And then I started realizing I'm going to these types of seminars, these types of, I guess, leadership retreats, if you will, that are outside of faith, and I asked the question eventually, to what end am I really satisfying kind of some sort of sense of accomplishment? And really there was no end to it. It just was forever, and it just, to me, it was like, well, the end materially has to stop somewhere. And so kind of developed into more of a deeper philosophical thought, I guess, as far as how I ended up here. And I was at St. Paul's one day in the vestibule with one of my crying kids, and I saw a brochure for TLI. And so I picked it up and followed TLI on Facebook, and then a couple months later they were holding not a virtual open house, but an open house. And so I came to it and was really attracted to it. I had to kind of give it a year before I could get into the program. Applied to the program, and being a part of the program has just been such a blessing. I've met so many great people to share my faith with, and to just kind of understand who they are and what their family dynamic is. And that's really encouraged me as a husband and father to just continue growing and developing. I'm encouraged by people here and their faith as well. So I'm still have friends as part of the program. We still meet up and still talk and keep in touch with each other about what our commitments and how they're doing. So that's how I ended the program.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to be sharing the mic throughout the night, so thank you for that. And I just realized it's all Chris's by Andres tonight. We're all Chris. It wasn't even planned. So why does TLI exist? Ultimately, our purpose as an organization is to have more faithful, committed Catholic voices at all of the tables where decisions are made. Those decisions that impact the culture. So this is it. This is why we created this program 5 years ago. We make no secret about it. If you take a look at the state of the world right now, if you watch the news, if you know what's going on in America and even farther beyond the borders of our country, you know that at the root of many of the problems that we're seeing today is the lack of principled, virtuous, ethical leadership. So we think that our mission is very timely to prepare leaders for tomorrow. This is why we do it. But tonight I also want you to know why participants should do it. Why do they gain from the experience? So TLI makes a promise of bringing through 5 months professional development and spiritual growth. So I'd like you to focus a little bit on those 2 aspects and maybe tell me a little bit about what you gain in terms, specifically, concretely, in terms of professional development and spiritual growth. Andres, maybe we'll go that way. Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So professional development, really the TLI prepared me professionally in a way that I was lacking. I was kind of stagnant in my career, was slowly advancing and not getting to the places that I feel like I was wanting to get and maybe should have been getting because I was working hard and doing all the right things. So throughout the program, many of the experts that you're hearing from, they're in the business world and they're professionals themselves. So you're learning and hearing how a professional interacts with people, their conduct, their demeanor. So they're sharing things with you that as a lay Catholic professional, you realize, oh wow, that's something that I can bring to the table, I can bring to my workplace, and it's something that'll benefit me. So just really in a nutshell, the TLI helped me to realize my full potential as a professional. And it was really almost immediately after the program where these opportunities just started to come up. They started to come my way. It was about a little less than a year after graduating. I had been promoted. It was a big promotion to supervisor within my department. Then after that, I ended up receiving an appointment to a position within Maricopa County as an ombudsman. And again, I received another appointment recently, and I really believe that it's the TLI and the work that they're doing and all those that are involved that really help to prepare all those that are participating in the program to realize their full potential, to really engage in the workplace and approach it a little bit differently. And Chris spoke about the highlight of the program, which is the retreat. And at the retreat, really without getting into it too much and sharing it with you all, because it's something worthwhile to experience yourselves, really one of the focuses is learning who you are as a person and learning what virtues you're more inclined to and what virtues you're not so inclined to and what you may struggle with. And that's something that helped me. I mean, ultimately that was the thing that really helped to shape me and where I needed to go professionally. And the other thing professionally is I realized that, there's more I want to be doing for my community. There's more I want to be doing, and I know I can be doing. And so during the program, I did actually apply for a position with Arizona Environmental Health Association as a board member at large. And so that had been really fruitful and eventually led to running for president-elect, which I did win, and which means eventually I'll be president this next coming year. So the TLI not only helped me to bolster my career and to grow there, but also it helped me to learn that service is important, and us lay Catholic professionals, and as Chris so eloquently puts, we need to be at the tables where decisions are made, because if we're not, then who is? And we all know, the other side and what could potentially be there. So that was really an amazing experience that the TLI that really helped me with. And then the other thing was, again, the spiritual side. I touched upon it a little bit, but spiritually, I had been lacking prior to the TLI. I knew why I was Catholic. I knew why I wanted to remain Catholic. I knew why I needed to marry in the church, and why having many children was a beautiful thing, and all those things were good. I was square on that. I accepted all the teachings of the church, even those that I wasn't aware of. All that was good, but again, the TLI helped me in a way spiritually that I really never would have thought initially coming into it, because I was looking for a closer relationship with God. I understood and understand that we have a real presence in the Eucharist, and we have the sacraments that are a major blessing and benefit to us all, but I felt like God was calling me to something deeper, but I just couldn't get to it. Like my mind was there, my heart was there, but I just couldn't get to that place. And the beautiful thing about the TLI is it incorporates, obviously, the whole professional aspect, but also the spiritual aspect, which is a major part of the program. We start with a prayer, we end with a prayer. Now, more recently, we do an examination of conscience, which is a beautiful part of the sessions. And there's other opportunities to grow spiritually, the retreat being one of them, and other activities that might happen. So after the program, I just really found myself in a place where God, he had brought me to the place that I was longing for, and he was calling me to something more deeper. And since graduating through the years, I've just been incorporating more of a plan of life, incorporating God into my daily routines and making him the center of my life. And as another blessing, the lives of my wife and children. We do pray a daily rosary. It was like the third quarter of 2018, something like that, and we haven't stopped. And I really attribute that to the TLI, because not just what you're learning in the program, but the people that you're learning with and the people that you're interacting with. And I really been blessed by that to meet very virtuous and deeply spiritual people who are living that life and who can help you and mentor you on the way. And for those reasons, I've just been so grateful and feel tremendously blessed to be a part of the TLI.
So I don't know how I can compete with that, but I will say that mine is a very unique journey, I feel, and when TLI approached me the first year, I think I did not jump on the opportunity again because of that time commitment. I'm a single mom. I just was thinking, and I should have dug into more because I think it was a sign, and I think that God knew I needed TLI more than I knew. And so the next year was feeling very similar to, I think, what Andre's going through is that there's something not connecting, there's something not, I don't feel whole. And I knew that my child was going to be going to Catholic school and preschool. I would connect with parents there and whatnot. But a program like this is very different than connecting with parents at the kids' school, okay? Parents are very surface. Everybody kind of keeps their distance from one another. You're friendly to a point, but it's not the same thing. And so for me professionally, I was questioning it because I had done a lot of this already, and I had taught leadership development programs at the university, and these were to senior leaders as well to try to move up in their career. But what I realized was I have not been around a group of professionals that were all Catholic and of the same faith. And I realized this when some of the things that we talk about and explore in the course of the program, one of them was just even about the way in which Catholics look at death and dying. And my father is very ill, 83, and just the way the medical practice handles themselves. And right away, I went into the hospital to visit my dad, and I can tell that this medical director was very different than the one I had just met. And right away, I saw the cross, and then he had like a St. Anthony medal. It's like, you see, there's a difference here, and I really feel like TLI was meant to come into my life. But then you think about professional growth, and I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to grow professionally. You have your doubts. But the people that they brought in to speak to us, and I was struggling a lot with what's going on politically. I felt like I had very different viewpoints than a lot of people I work with, and a lot of people I know today, a lot of people even around Phoenix that are my neighbors and whatnot. And I started to feel like I'm just different and unusual, and I don't belong anymore, right? And then you meet with these professionals, and I got to ask them questions, very hard questions, like, how do you do what you do and still be able to, show up to work, do what you do, keep growing in your field, but sometimes you don't agree with the direction that they're going, whether it's politically, whether it's, ethically. It's just, there's this constant pull I feel now in the career world that I did not feel for 20 years. I'm in my 40s, so I've been a professional for a long time, and I did not feel that prior to probably 3-4 years ago. So now I'm doing a lot of questioning, and I needed that mentorship to say, how do I do this? How do I get through this? Where I'm just going to blow up one day at work and feel like I don't fit in anymore and want to retreat. So hearing their true stories, their very raw stories, you start growing professionally that way. In addition, I wanted to be more involved. I was always in civic leadership, always. I mean, when I was 16, I was on the junior board of directors for the American Red Cross. I hadn't done anything in years, and not just because I had a child. I wish I could use that as an excuse, but because I was always focused on me for the last, 10 years, my career, me, my degree, my PhD, none of it was fulfilling. There was something missing. So this is where, I love the civic tie, and how can I get involved? How can I get involved with like-minded people? But spiritually, there were a lot of things, and I think Christopher knows when I spoke to him, that was what I felt was missing the most in my life. I grew up in the East Coast, and there are a lot of Catholics there. But here, I didn't know a lot of Catholics at all. And I knew I'd meet them when my daughter finally went to Catholic school, but again, I knew it would be different than kind of feeling that family sense of, really tight sense of community. Because we're busy, we go to church for an hour, and we don't see each other again. We drop our kids off in the morning, and we pick them up. I don't have time as a professional to really be involved in a lot. So I had an instant community and an instant opportunity to get that spiritual growth. They came to me. That's what I think about TLI. You brought all of them to us. That's what TLI did for us. And they lined it up. I'm talking, you want to talk about education, Catholic education, there you go. We had someone talking about that. These are the issues that were important to me, and I was just starting to dive in emotionally to these kinds of things and spiritually, and they all came to me. I want to be closer to my faith. I feel like I went through the motions. I went to Catholic school my whole life, but was I really connected? I know that I almost died, and I tell a lot of people the story. I almost died, and I had God visit me and tell convulsing, dying, blood coming out of everywhere. It's gruesome, yes. But the truth of the matter is I wanted to die, and I was told, you are not going to die, God's here with you, you're going to be fine. So I grew spiritually from that accident. I did, but I didn't connect with others that were as spiritual. And that was what I feel was missing in my life spiritually. And then you get the instant family. So those are the things that are important to me.
Thank you, Christante.
I really don't know how I'm supposed to top any of those stories. But it's not a,
Anything gruesome.
it's not a competition. So the question was, what do we gain professionally and spiritually with the program? And I mean, goodness, there's a lot of things even just in the time since I graduated. But truth be told, when I was selected for the program, I actually asked to be withdrawn from the program. I actually asked to be removed. And Christopher said, no, you're not, that's not going to happen. But he did it in a loving way where he just said, you know what, pray about it. You know, we talked about what the obstacles were, and I think part of me was actually looking for permission to be a part of the program. I have the tendency to really just kind of say yes to things and go for it. I work in sales, so it's hard to say no. But this was a time where I needed to just make sure it was right. So I participated in the program, of course. And professionally, I think some of the biggest takeaways for me personally are grounding myself into areas and directions that are for the greater good of our faith, and evangelizing in our profession, in my profession, evangelizing for the church, and then also just reorienting what I already do extracurricular-wise outside of work for our faith. And I was already on the board of directors with my Chamber of Commerce. I served on different committees within my community to be active and involved. I just kind of have a history of doing that already. My wife kind of jokes about, you know, you got to say no sometimes. But I've learned since then that really not all those activities are doing probably the good that needs to be done. And maybe it's time to step into a new role. So within my own career, I actually switched companies while I was in TLI. And that was kind of a stressful time, but I actually went back to my mentor with TLI and spoke to him about it. I also spoke to one of the speakers that we had in our sessions about the move and about things to look at, because Chris had mentioned that, you know, there are things where you might align or not really align with an organization or individuals, and those were a lot of my concerns, especially with everything going on in the political sphere, and also just in general, just how things have been run with many big companies. And so that was a big moment for me to lean into TLI for that mentorship and that advice. Without it, I probably would still be trying to figure out what decision to make. So career-wise, it's been a blessing. And since then, I would say the development side of it with our faith and the virtue and just going out in the world, that redirection has helped me really look at my business differently and remember that I'm doing this for my family, right, to support them, and I need to be present with them, and not just physically present, but mentally present with them too. That's what I was chasing many times at a lot of these other leadership type seminars, and it wasn't setting in. And that goes back to also those extracurriculars, reorienting those energies towards things that are for God's kingdom. Spiritually, that all kind of is encompassed in the same thing, but I've been reading a lot more on virtue. One of my kind of defaults is that it's the endurance side of things, and or I'm sorry, not defaults, but faults, if you will, is the endurance, just continuing what it is that I started. So I challenge myself to just start small, and that's been bearing fruit. So I do serve on the Rio Vista Planning Committee with the City of Phoenix, with my neighborhood, and that is, it's interesting for sure, but it's kind of the start of kind of where my commitment was going with TLI, and so that's just one of those things of stick with it, stay with it. You know, you're going to have ebbs and flows, but continue the progress, because this is forming you for something in the future, right? So I'm still developing spiritually kind of a lot of the things that we got out of TLI. So the examination, the daily prayers have been more and more prominent in my mind to do, and continue with my family, of course. So it's I always think about my cohort, like, what are they doing? I'm sure they're praying right now. I'm sure they're taking care of what they need to, and I mean, the people here on stage right now, they've certainly exceeded kind of the threshold, I think, on those things. So anyway.
Thank you for that, Chris. And at this point, we're going to open it up for questions from the audience here or virtually. And if there are some, we'll take them. If there are not, I have more. But I do want to tell you, I don't want it to be left out of the conversation, that one of the things that we're trying to do with TLI is this. We're trying to change the chip in the minds of lay Catholics. That, sincerely, we believe that we have been getting it wrong for the longest time in the church, the laity. Very often, and many of you watching virtually will agree with me, that when a lay Catholic has an experience of encounter or re-encounter with Christ, maybe through a retreat or something that happened in their life, immediately they are so fired up for the faith, they just want to give back and they want to serve. And they're looking for their place. They're looking for a place in the church. They just want to go back and just participate. What do we end up doing? I've been there myself. We go back to the parish and we sign up for every ministry that we can sign up. Everyone. We say yes to everything. And sometimes we set up a tent and camp at the parish. But that's not really our vocation. As lay, that is not our vocation. We should absolutely be involved with our parish community. We should be an active member of the community. We should be supported to our pastors and bishops, absolutely, 100%. We have a duty to continue to grow ourselves and form ourselves in the faith, absolutely. But our true field for mission as lay people should be the world. And if God has blessed us with a professional career, TLI is for Catholic professionals, it's because that should be our field for mission. And that's what the program is designed to do, to show you just what that looks like for your own professional life. So with that, we'll take any questions that we might have from the audience or from the, I'm going to try to do this, I have my phone here. And I know that some of you are watching, and there's a delay when I'm watching on my phone, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to read the questions. But if you're watching online and you have questions, you can just simply type your question in the comments, and we'll take your questions. Otherwise, and in the meantime, while we wait for it, I want to ask our volunteers, our graduates who are sitting in the panel, I want to give each one of you one component of the program so that you can describe it a little bit. And maybe one of you want to take on mentor. There's a mentorship component of the program, Christante. You can take on the mentor. Then we have the retreat. Who would like to go a little more in depth into the retreat? Maybe Chris. And then we have the community. One of the most valuable takeaways from the program, I think, in addition to the terrific formation, is the community that you've become part of. Not only your own cohort, which you become really close-knit, very close-knit group, but the larger TLI community. So maybe you, Andres, can take on that one. And we'll start with Chris this time.
No, I get to be the top dog. No. So the retreat, how do I describe this without giving it away too much? I think the biggest thing with the retreat is that it's a retreat. And it's like no other retreat you've probably experienced before because it's business development, but it has that virtue component, that Catholic component to it. We had Mass, we had lots of talks about virtue, and I would say coming out of it, it was uplifting, and it wasn't just something that was like the warm and fuzzies that I kind of took away and just, I was done. It was continual, and it was constant. I was constantly reminding myself of just what that experience was and what I was discerning in prayer at that moment as far as my work and where I need to go and how I need to develop moving forward. But the retreat really helped me narrow down those weaknesses that I need to grow, be stronger in. And there's that saying, God draws us with squiggly lines, right? I was noticing my squiggly lines during the retreat. But I was also really reflecting on the saints during that time and the virtues that made them saints. And they had strong virtues that they were masters at, but the virtues that really helped them stand out were their weaknesses that they would just overcome. And so the retreat really positioned those virtues, those things that I lack, those things I need to be better at, really position it in a way that was edifying, I could chew on and work on moving forward. So the spiritual aspects of it, I mean, there was a point where we were completely silent, and I was just like in awe of that, and I could feel kind of that presence in the room. There was presence in the room, just leave it at that. Just overall, I mean, we all came out of it just looking forward to what was next and what was ahead. So,
Trying not to sneeze, so I'm sorry. See how good I do. So, mentorship. I love the idea of mentorship. I used to create mentor programs at the university for all of the incoming, staff. And when Christopher said you were going to get a mentor and you're going to talk to them, I figured, okay, I'm sure I'll contact them this one time and do it. And go through the motions with me, get to know me a little bit, we'll talk little niceties, and then we probably won't talk again. Is what I figured. They're busy, I'm busy. It was instantly like this person was my sister, and she was like reading into my soul. It was amazing. So I contacted her, and we decided when we were going to have a session together. I introduced who I was a little bit, myself, my background, and it was like I knew right away I wasn't giving her enough, right? Because she can't really truly help me if I'm just going to be on the surface with her. And she knew right away that I was like just giving her like the overview of myself. But who am I really? And what do I really want? What do I need out of this mentorship? So she jumped in right away and started almost like digging, I would say, almost like, your grandma would do when you go to see her, right? And it was like this digging moment. And she really got way into me and started telling me how she is spiritual, right? How does she feel that she connects with God and the things that she does every day? And it was just eye-opening to me to talk to another person on this level. I mean, maybe I did this with family members, but I don't really do this with anybody else, right? Really get that deep. So we're talking about how she prays and what she does to connect to God, what I could do. She's giving me suggestions right away, but not suggestions that I'm not asking for. So it was really interesting that this relationship formed into, I never even met her in person. It's during COVID. We are virtual, and I felt like I've known her my entire life, like more than my relatives. And we talked about how to pray, how to get that deeper connection. She followed up with me. How are you doing with that? She could tell in my voice, never meeting me, days in which I was off. My dad had COVID, he's 83, I didn't know if he was going to survive, but before that he had like an aortic aneurysm. So he was kind of healing from this, and other days it didn't seem like he was going to make it. And she knew this, and she said, okay, I'm going to pray for your father. I can tell this is what's on your mind today. But God's got you. And then there was another thing that we had to do as part of the program, which was try to figure out what our commitment was going to be, right? So we're going to leave this program and we're going to leave with a commitment into what we're going to do, to kind of push our faith forward and what we're going to do to maybe connect in our community. And I was struggling with this because I am very busy, and anytime I commit to something, I do it 110%. I am not one of those. So I was really, she just got into it with me, and we talked through this amazing, like, what are my talents? What are my gifts? What can I give back? And she wasn't the only one. You get a lot of mentorship through the program with, your cohort. So other people are coming to you telling you, this is what I think you should do. You really see this talent in you, and it's just inspiring. But to hear it from your mentor and her guide you, she's been through this. And she said, this is what I see can be a real need to the community, and I see that you can fulfill this. It was just amazing. And from there, like every week we would, follow up on my commitment, or every few weeks. And then I realized, how can I support her? So it was almost a mutual relationship right off the bat, but I wasn't aware of that. So then she tells me how much I've helped her. In me being her mentee, how much I've helped her grow and connect. And she was going through some things as well with her family. So it's amazing. You find people you wouldn't think you're anything alike based on your professions, maybe based on where you started out in life, maybe where you grew up. We were, our culture was completely different, but we were on the same exact path in life, and we had so much to share professionally, just sharing things even though we're in very different professions. I gave her insight, she gave me insight. So it really is like big sister. It was to me, that kind of feeling. But she helped me connect more spiritually, which is really what I was looking for. And also professionally, she'd given me some tips and some guidance. Sometimes you can't talk to your friends anymore about your profession, right? They're sick of hearing it, maybe? No, never. But even your family members, they have no idea what you deal with at a business level. It's nice to talk to someone outside of your field who's also a professional. And so she gave me that guidance as well with when there were things I was struggling with, maybe a career opportunity, or maybe just, a difficult person that you might work with, right? And so there are just a lot of things you can get at that mentorship, but most of all, you feel completely 100% supported to be you and do this the way you want to do it that works for you.
So that phrase, divide and conquer, everyone's familiar with that, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's typically taken out of context, divide and conquer tasks, so that way you complete multiple tasks. But really that phrase goes back to Machiavellian. What it is, it's really diabolical. Divide and conquer, separate them, isolate them, make them individualists. Let them believe that individualism is a good thing, and that separating ourselves from others is somehow good. We know as Catholics that it's not good. We know that God created this mystical body of Christ, the church, to bring us all together, to unite us. And community is essential because as a community we can help build each other up, we can help each other grow. And I think in a lot of the things that we've shared here tonight, it's pretty easy to identify that what TLI is trying to do is to build a community of lay faithful Catholics who are out there in the world, who are really trying to sanctify the world, and who are sharing the same mission, but who are also helping those that are on this mission as well to sanctify the world, but to also realize that they're not at it alone. They have this community and people to support them. And the TLI, as Chris were sharing, I think we need a set of rule. I should probably say Chris G, Chris C, and Chris P, just so we can identify which Chris I'm talking about. But
and if you're Chris, you need to come to TLI. So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you're a Chris, join TLI. But what they were sharing is the TLI is really geared to develop that community. And one of the things that you're going to find in the TLI is really we're trying to nurture that, and there's multiple avenues and multiple ways that this happens. And one of the things when we ended up going 100% online with the program that I was a little bit apprehensive about, and I expressed this to Chris P, Christopher Pereira, the CEO, that, Chris, the in-person experience, it's amazing for multiple reasons, because one of those being is you get to interact with your peers. You're forming this network, and it's just an excellent thing that we have, and I think we're going to be without that. And he assured me, he said, Andres, he said, we're going to be fine. He's like, I have an idea, we're going to be able to make this work. And so I trust Chris, and lo and behold, that actually happened, and something very beautiful happened this year. So I was able to realize how having a virtual program, you actually still can form an amazing community. And the reason being is the program participants, they meet with each other on a weekly basis, just through a Zoom coffee is what we call it. And they're able to interact with each other and talk about their profession, their lives, their families, whatever they're going through, and really build this connection, this relationship virtually. And we even see that some, especially if they're living in a similar area, they end up hanging out outside of the program. And it's just a beautiful thing, because as iron sharpens iron, we all know that we all need to be sharpening each other in our spirituality, in our faith, in how we approach the world and trying to sanctify the world, and also supportive of one another, because we all know that there's so many things that are out there in the world that are so difficult to come up against, and we need a support system to help us to to be able to confront these things and to talk these things through and to provide us with support. And the TLI does provide that and gives the participants that. And having that network of individuals on a professional level is amazing. It's helped me in certain situations. Just a quick story. The board that I was on, we ended up getting a letter, an ASCII-gram from a law office saying you guys violated copyright of this image. And so we were looking at a pretty hefty fee to get this addressed, and everyone on the board was like, well, do we know an attorney? You know, is there someone that we can look to help us? And I was like, well, yeah, I do. And it was a TLI graduate, a TLI peer of mine. And I ended up reaching out to him, and he was able to connect me with someone else who was able to help guide us through this process. And we ended up settling for, it was like $2,000, $2,500 less than what they were originally asking for. So it was an example of how this community, not only spiritually, but in the professional setting, can be helpful to you. So, yeah.
Thank you, Andres. We have lots of questions from the virtual audience, so we're going to begin tackling them. One of them is really long, so I'm probably going to try to split it into a few questions. One that is very easy that we can tackle right away. I want to ask you to just say the word or a couple of words and just answer it really quickly. The question is simple but very important. What is one leadership skill that you learned in TLI that has been the most beneficial and you use often in your profession? You don't have to explain it, just say what it is. Chris.
Patience. That's it, patience.
All right. Christante.
This is a hard one because there's a few, but I think one of the skills that I learned is, I think remembering everyone's, unique individual sense of, what they can contribute. So as a leader, you have to find that in your people, or you will never have a successful team. And I think TLI constantly remind me that we're all different, but we are all kind of the same. There's something that you can connect with and drive the best out of people. And I think that's what, some of the TLI leaders who came to speak to us, that's exactly what they were talking about, is finding that best in people, finding that commonality, and driving that out.
Thank you.
For me, it's fortitude.
Yeah. Excellent. You notice that a lot of what we talk about here is virtues, because a lot of people ask us about this leadership. How do you teach leadership? Well, if you go check it out and look up the dictionary, there is not really a consensus to what leadership is. If you check out the dictionary, I checked it in English and Spanish, and it's the same thing. It says that a leader is that one who leads others. So it's not very healthy. In the corporate world, and many of the people that are looking at leadership programs, what they're really thinking about when they say leadership, they mean management. We don't teach management at TLI. A manager is somebody who efficiently manages human capital and resources available to him or her. We don't teach that. We teach leadership, and we teach virtuous leadership. We focus on what it takes to grow as a virtuous leader. And a virtuous leader, we define, and we didn't create the definition, we borrowed it from our friends, the Virtuous Leadership Institute, which is a leader is that one who brings about great things by bringing out the greatness in others. And this is why you hear so much about virtue. But I want to address some of the other questions that I've seen, or perhaps I'll let my panelists do it. If you could, Chris, maybe Christopher, just quickly address sort of the format of a session, what a session looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So sessions, they started in the evening. They were virtual, and we would start off with prayer. And then before we would kind of go into the session itself, we would, we had like these kind of get to know each other type exercises. We would kind of go through those, whoever was kind of left over to go through them. And then we would go ahead and jump right into the speakers. The speakers would last, they would speak about different topics that were relevant to kind of that theme for the week. So just to give you an idea, one of the topics is healthcare and dignity of the human, of the person. Other topics were similar. They were, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I just drew a quick blank. Education, thank you. Education. And then there were topics about immigration. There were a lot of political line type of topics, but they would go specifically in detail about kind of what are those elements that are controversial and what's impacting them, and where we as the faithful need to come in. So the social teachings of the church were also topics. Leisure was a topic that actually was one of my favorite ones. But anyway, so we would go through those topics, and the speakers would last about 45 minutes apiece, and we always had 3 speakers actually, and then at the end of all the speakers, we would do about almost an hour-long Q&A session. And that was very helpful. We had a chance to really kind of express where we're at and just understand those topics at hand. And then lastly, we would do kind of like a speed dating version of getting to know each other for about 30 seconds. And that was a lot of fun actually on Zoom. So we would continue kind of that Zoom coffee mentality, and then we would pair up for Zoom coffees after that. And then we would end everything in prayer with an examination of conscience. And then quick announcements right after, and we'd be done. So there was a good tight schedule with every session. You didn't kind of wait in white space or waste time or anything like that during the process.
We're done.
Thank you,
right
Chris.
on time.
We have somebody in the audience. I'm sorry, what?
I said we were done right on time all the time.
We were always done on time. Yes, the sessions start on time and they end on time, and all the Tepeyac leaders know it. But Christante, a lot of people ask us, and I want you to answer this question about the time commitment. People, okay, can I really do this? Is there homework? What else am I going to be committing myself to? Can you tell a little bit about that, please?
Being that it's virtual, though, I just want to say it really, I think, makes it so much easier. So first off, it's virtual. It's laid back, so don't be uncomfortable, because that was my concern. I have a toddler running around in the background. How am I going to do this? Dinner time, right? So for us, it was 6 o'clock, and you have those 3 hours once a week, and I thought, oh my gosh, these 3 hours are going to drag on. But no, so you have the 3 hours once a week. It does not. It goes so quick, and the class is done, and you end in prayer, and you feel revitalized, supported, and it's just a nice, calm evening. But is there homework for that? So that was always kind of my thought before I was joining this. There is some, perhaps some reading that they have you do, but if there is some type of emergency that week and you do not get to it, this is not a place where you are judged, or ridiculed for that. This is not the teacher giving you an F. It's for you, and you want to read that stuff because you want to be in the know before those presenters come about the topics that they're going to be presenting on, so that you can really get deeper into what they have to share with you. You can ask deeper questions and things of that nature. So the readings are all so welcome. The homework is so welcome. I did want to bring up the one thing we did in class, which was really, really a lot of fun, is we paired up. We were put in groups. Andres would pick us and put us into different groups. Him and I got paired up a lot. It's like so strange. But anyways, you have a few minutes, and during that time, you have a few minutes to solve a problem or to come up with some type of solution on something. And that stuff is fascinating. It all goes to the homework and the reading that you did that same week. So everything just kind of comes together during your class session. And then there's the Zoom meeting. So there are some of my friends, my cohort is sitting here. We got to meet through Zoom coffee. It was like 30 minutes. But hey, I wanted to stay on the phone with you for hours. It was like, I was talking to my best friend. So it was really a lot of fun. You do not feel like it's a time commitment. You feel like it is such an enjoyable experience.
Thank you, Christante. And I have a question for you, Andres, too. But first I want to read this really fun one that we got online that says, have you heard stories of spouses beating each other through this program? And let me tell you, I know everybody that has gone through the program. We don't have a set of spouses yet, but we do have 2 lovebirds. One of them is in the room, actually, so I'll keep you posted on that. You've heard a lot about Andres being now the facilitator. Well, it turns out that Andres, after graduating, he was so passionate about supporting the mission of TLI. He came back as one of our 3 facilitators for the now TLI Central track of the program. So Andres, could you share a little bit about what the leadership commitment is, so that people understand? For you, becoming a facilitator, what's your leadership commitment? What are the leadership commitments?
the leadership commitments are a really important part of the program, and something worthwhile to know before getting into, because I've thought about the program a lot, obviously having gone through it and now being a facilitator for it, and I think of people that are particularly on the fence about the program and what their thoughts are, and I think that, maybe there's that person who says, I'm applying for this because I want it, and it's going to cost, there's going to be a lot of time, and they're asking me to do more work, so I think about those people, but at the same time, if the program is really for them, then it's for them, and really they should pursue it. But regardless, if they're kind of grappling with this whole idea, like I'm being asked to do more, that's really not the approach to take. That's not the way to think about it, because we know that our God and our Savior, there's a particular mission that Christ fulfilled, and during that Great Commission, he asked his apostles to go out and spread the gospel to all nations, and that wasn't just solely for them. There were also disciples that were also playing a part, an integral part of the church and its life and mission, and so we too, to this very day, 2,000 years ago, are playing a part in the life and mission of the church. And if we go back to Lumen Gentium, one of the Vatican II documents, that the laity are called to participate in the life and mission of the church and building it up and sanctifying the world. And so this whole idea of a commitment is actually, it's a blessing. It's something that helps us to realize our mission and also find our purpose in the world. And the commitment is really such a beautiful part of the program. For me as a facilitator, it was amazing as a participant, but as a facilitator, it's a little bit different. Being that I'm seeing throughout the program people with certain interests, they get excited about one particular topic or multiple topics, but they have some type of relation to each other. And you realize that God is showing them, He's put them on this path of discernment, and He's showing them where in the world and in the secular society that He wants them to be, where they can use their gifts. And so eventually, as you come to the end of the program, at graduation, the participants will read what their commitments are. And such an amazing experience, because I'm seeing them develop, and I'm seeing these things kind of come to light. I'm starting to identify areas of interest for the different participants, and then when they start to share what their commitments are, it's honestly, it does give me goosebumps and sometimes a little bit of tears, because you realize that these people have found it. They found what God has been calling them to. They found what their mission is, and they found what their purpose is. And although it may not fully be realized, they're on that path. And the commitment is such an important part of the program, because it's really the ending result of the program, right? Everyone's going through the program for a particular reason, and when they graduate, they're going out. We're sending out, just like that Great Commission, to sanctify the world and to bring these well-formed Catholic leaders into parts of society where Bishop Olmsted can't go, or our local priest, our pastor can't go. It's where we're being called to help change and sanctify the world and bring Christ to the world. And that's the commitments.
Thank you, Andres. So we're going to wrap this up very soon, so I want to give an opportunity to anybody watching virtually or here in the audience. If you'd like, just let me know by raising your hand. If you have any questions, think about it and write your questions right away here so I can read them. While I tell you the following, I want to talk a little bit about, I want to make sure that it's not left out of the conversation, because this is fairly new. The flexibility that now is built into the TLI program. It is just wonderful, because the program has continued to grow and develop, and I believe it just gets better and better. Now we have a lot of flexibility built into the program, because when you participate in the virtual program, it's the only way to participate virtually. When you apply, you choose from 3 different tracks, 3 different groups. You can do TLI West, TLI Central, or TLI East, and each of them meets in a different night, and they're all meeting from 7 to 10 p.m. in their time zone. So if you do TLI West, you'll be meeting 7 to 10 p.m. Tuesdays. TLI Central, 7 to 10 p.m. Central Time, Wednesdays. And TLI East is 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday nights. So you choose one, and you'll go through the program on that same night with the same group of people most of the nights. But if in any given night, you know that you just won't be able to make the session on that day because something is going on at work, you can join just for that week any of the other two groups. You have two other choices. Because each week, each of the three groups will be doing exactly the same content, live content. So I think that's phenomenal. We've always given participants the opportunity, if they have to miss only up to 3 sessions. If we say, if you have to, only up to 3, and you can still graduate. That's still on. But really, now, there's hardly any reason to miss any of the sessions. And you won't want to, because really, once we get started, participants are typically hooked by week 2. But I had another question here, and I'll read it real quick and say, it's a question about, is there follow-up? Are there opportunities to continue to be engaged with the program and your peers post-graduation? The answer is yes, multiple, and we're working on even more ways for you to get engaged. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience before we go? No? No? Okay, and let me check quickly here. I want to make sure I don't miss any questions from the virtual audience. I don't think, no, I think we have any more questions. So with that, any final thoughts from each of our panelists, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the live stream and watching and listening. I think kind of my final thoughts or takeaway from this is just pray about it. I think that's maybe a standard answer, but pray about it, truly. Think about it, and I would ask the question of yourself, what am I called to do? And if you are asking that question and you're coming up empty, which I think most of us, if we're really discerning, most of us will probably come up empty to some point, or you're trying to fill in the gap somewhere else, apply. That's it.
Thank you.
I would say don't get hung up on the fear that you can't do this. And I think there's a lot of people doing that right now. And I don't know who's on virtually, but if you do have questions for us, I know you can get me on Facebook, you can contact me personally and talk about what your fears are with commitment. But I know that there is research that's been done that says women do not apply for things because they think that they can't live up to the commitment. Men sometimes jump in a little bit more. So ladies, I'm talking to you, you can do this. Like I said, the time commitment is mostly enjoyable, 20 minutes of reading before a class. It really is never going to be overwhelming to you, and you are going to want to do it. I took classes from my dad's hospital room. So that's where I did my live classes for almost a month. I think it was 4 sessions I did because I didn't want to miss it, even though I know I have for free. So you'll do it. You'll find a way to do it, and you'll enjoy it. So please apply. The time is now. If you were called here today, I don't think anything is by coincidence. And I think when Christopher reached out to me, it was the perfect time in my life for TLI to come into my life. So please do it now. Please apply. You'll love it.
Yeah, and I will say to approach the Tepeyac Leadership Initiative, which is a 5-month program, it's a 5-month investment for the rest of your life. What I have experienced in TLI, and I think what a lot of everyone really that's been a part of the program will agree with, is in that short 5 months, it goes by really quickly. It's fast paced, and that's for a reason. And the amount of growth that you experience there, it's something that will really set you apart for your life. And I think Chris C. really put it so well that if you're reluctant, cast that aside, because we know God gives us clarity. We know where indecision and confusion comes from. But I think what you had said is, if you're here, you're here for a reason. It's not by coincidence, and I agree with that. And everyone that's been a part of the program has that purpose and that mission. And I do see that they're set apart. These are very special people, and not to say that others that aren't in the program aren't special, but these are people that God is definitely calling, and I think everyone here, God is calling you. And with regard to leadership, I think sometimes people think of leadership as being the loudest voice in the room and being the person that has to stand up and deliver. But you learn in the TLI that virtuous leadership is not necessarily that person. It's the person that leads with virtue in their workplace and in their places where they're serving. And so if you're hesitant for that reason, that you don't think that you can be that person in the workplace or be that person in society or on a board. But don't think that, because what you'll learn in TLI is that leadership is for everyone. Virtuous leadership is something that's unique, and it incorporates philosophy and theology, and it's something that, again, will benefit you for the rest of your life no matter what it is you do after graduation. So with that, I do encourage all of you to, that are here in attendance and haven't been to the program, to apply. And if you do apply and for some reason you're part of the central track, you'll see me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do look forward to any of you that are here that do apply. I do look forward to seeing you and any of those that are here with us online.
Thank you, Andres. How about a round of applause here for our panelists? And I just want to say in closing that we are taking applications from October 1st to November 15th, so the time to apply is now. There's an early bird discount, I think it's by October. If you do it before November, you'll definitely get an early bird discount, so you want to take advantage of that. Reach out to me if you have any questions. We've been doing this now for 5 years. We have one here in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were waving. I thought it was.
No, I just wanted to contribute something.
Sure, absolutely. You don't have to turn the camera around, Cecilia. We'll just hear the question. I'll come over here. Or comment?
That's not a question. I was, part of the graduates.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to say that sometimes, like if you're there in the world, at work, whatever, watching the TV, or there's just something that all of us are faced with this. There are things that you just say, this is not right. I don't like the direction this is going, but what can I do about it? I would just say get involved, because here you will be exposed to a vast, information from very accredited speakers that will give you the tools and the resources that you would need, so that when you have the opportunity, you can do something about it and not feel like that you don't like the way things are going, but that you're useless. So you don't feel helpless. This will help you a lot.
Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate it. So yes, absolutely. This is very much an action-oriented program. One thing I always say is we have intentionally designed TLI not to be another program that people do just to check on a box, feel good about themselves, and then it's business as usual. This is very much a roll up your sleeves and get stuff done type of program. This is what we have with leadership commitments, and we really get to doing things. So reach out if you have any questions. You know that I am the recruiter by default, and I am happy to meet with any of you on a one-on-one basis if necessary. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful night.